And one of the gifts that he gave to Russian rock and roll was bringing this very poetic sensibility to the music, where he transformed Russian rock and roll in the way that Bob Dylan transformed English language rock and roll.
Steven, thank you so much for the time. I really
Hey,
appreciate it.
you're welcome. Good to meet you.
It's good to meet you too. It really is. The Long Way Home is, I mean, this is a classic documentary that I admit was new for me. But it's exciting to see it brought to life once again with the remaster. Can you why now? What was it that made you want to bring this story back to life today?
I like to call it a resurrection, but it's also a restoration and an expansion. Uh, Michael Apted died in 2021, which was a great loss for film lovers and a personal loss for me and everyone who had worked with him and loved him. And we had talked at one point in 2010 about making a sequel film that would look at Boris's evolution as an artist and how Russia had changed since we filmed with him in 1988. And we weren't able to raise the money to do that. You know, it's always, even with a famous director, it can be really tough to raise money for a documentary unless it's an obvious crowd pleaser. So after Michael died, I started thinking more about The Long Way Home and how to bring it back. And I finished one film in 2022 and had some other projects. And finally, I had a bit of time in 2023 to focus on it. And I just decided, got to do it now. It hasn't been available for over 30 years. I'm getting older. Boris is getting older. This is one of Michael Apted's best documentaries. It's a great rock and roll film. It has something to say in the present because looks at a moment in Russia where there was hope for change, for freedom and democracy. And look where we are now. So this is a way of maybe showing particularly younger viewers what was and what might yet be after Vladimir Putin is gone. Um, so I started to work more in 2024, and by 2025, I was ready to. I had raised enough money to get the remastering done and to produce an epilogue, which is now part of the film.
Yeah, I love the fact that the epilogue it feels like it adds so much to the film. Especially with Boris's journey and having walked with him nearly 40 years ago and walking with him now, have you noticed a change in him or is he the same person at heart?
I think he is the same person at heart. Obviously, he's changed physically. He's gotten older, as have I. We're exactly the same age, and but I think he has retained the spirit which attracted so many people back in the day when the Long Way Home was made and before. He really believes in the power of music to uplift people, to connect deeply to their emotions, and to transform people at times. In the epilogue, he makes the statement about what he still hopes to achieve as an artist. And I love the way he puts it, particularly for somebody of my generation, where he says, um, I hope I can do for people what the Beatles, Revolver, and Sergeant Pepper's did for me when I was young. So he's still trying to connect, and he's doing great work. He just dropped a new album last week called Strange Things that people can find on Bandcamp. And even if you don't speak Russian, you can still get it. It's like Dave Stewart says in the film. Um, the words, you don't have to get the words because you can get the feelings that come from the music and the voice.
I love you bring up the power of music here, and one of the things that keeps coming up in the original documentary is freedom, the idea of freedom. And certainly when that film was made, we're talking about the late 80s, we're talking about the new world colliding with the old world, if you will, at that time. And yet it still feels like it applies, especially in the epilogue. And I was wondering in your mind, in your conversations with Boris, is music a way that you feel can express or bring freedom to the masses?
I'm not sure exactly what Boris would say. Um, Perhaps he would talk about a sense of personal freedom that comes from self-expression and from feeling uh, connected to something deeply, because music can connect with us at that level. You know, think of all the pop songs or recordings, you know, even things that go into another dimension, symphonic recordings, et cetera, that move you deeply. You don't know why. Boris is not an overtly political artist. He hasn't written many songs that are message songs or anthems. There's one that's briefly in the original film, This Train's on Fire, which just shows that if he wanted to write message songs, they would be brilliant and really connect. And that was like an anthem for Soviet youth in 1988. But I think he just wants to touch people and open their hearts and make them think. It's one mind to many minds. He's sharing the way he sees the world, and he transforms that into lyrics. And one of the gifts that he gave to Russian rock and roll was bringing this very poetic sensibility to the music, where he transformed Russian rock and roll in the way that Bob Dylan transformed English language rock and roll. So, and he occupies the same kind of space. He's like the voice of a generation, and he's still going strong, which is remarkable, particularly because he's in exile. I mean, he's lost his homeland, he's lost his base, but he's found a way to connect to it through social media, through touring, through his commitment to his music.
Yeah, it really is amazing to sort of see where he is now. That, like I said, that ending epilogue. This is not a couple of. Sometimes when you have an epilogue, it's a brief, a 5 minute sort of. This is where they are now. But this is a significant time we get to spend with him and see how his outspokenness has, like you said, has exiled him from his own home. It's remarkable. But going with the original film, of course, as well. I would love to know for you going back and bringing the film to life, resurrecting it, as you said, what that experience was like for you, or the new things you noticed. What was that? What was it like to engage it with fresh eyes?
Interesting question. First of all, there was the reward of seeing it on a big screen because it was made for TV. We shot it on film, but we finished on tape. And finishing on tape in 1988 meant standard definition video, which is a far cry from the 4K world that we live in now. Um, so there was the pleasure of seeing it properly remastered, so it can be seen on a big screen and seen at home by people and appreciated for what it is, which is just a very entertaining and engaging verite documentary. By verite, I mean observational, where you're really there with Boris and Dave Stewart and everyone else, with Boris's band Aquarium, who had been his brothers in arms, in rock and roll arms anyway, for 15 years or longer when the film was made. So the, it was emotionally rewarding. Did I see anything differently? No, I don't think so. But what I did appreciate was the artistry of everyone who worked on the film. What Michael Apted brought to it as a director of his great talent, which he translated from actors to real people and back and forth to enable people to open up. The editing in the film is particularly brilliant. Suzanne Rostock was the editor, and she was my co-director for the epilogue. So it was wonderful to be reunited and collaborating again with part of the team, an essential part of the team that we had made the film with 37 years before. So it's satisfying, and I think the greatest satisfaction will be to see if the film connects with viewers today, meaning not just people my age, baby boomers, but younger viewers who really don't know much about what Russia was like back then and don't know who Boris Grebenshchikov is. And
Hmm.
they should because he's an important artist. I think he's one of the best singer-songwriters of the last 50 years, but because he's been working mostly in Russian, they don't know him. So here's a chance to appreciate one of the greatest artists and to appreciate a filmmaker, Michael Apted, who has left, but left behind many great films, some of which are not available still, some of his documentaries. And fortunately, we were able to bring this back thanks to some funders, donors who helped support the work. And the remastered and expanded film is dedicated to Michael's memory. And we consciously made the epilogue not in his style, but in his spirit, flashing back and forth between Boris today and using clips from the film in the past as a reference. And then that's a tribute to Michael's Seven Up films.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I love that. Um, that whole Seven Up films are unbelievable. Stephen, it is just wonderful to chat with you, and I really appreciate that. This is a testament to Boris's story and to Michael. But it really is wonderful. It's like stepping back in time, and I my memories are few of that era, I admit, but I was there. I was around, I should say, during that time, and watching it, it reminded me so many of the news broadcasts I would see, or just what the world would, the tension that the world lived in, and
Yeah.
it really is wonderful. Thank you so much for the time,
Okay.
Stephen. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. And we hope to get the film released digitally sometime this spring or summer. People should go to thelongwayhomefilm.com and our social channels to get details. Okay. Thank you,
Absolutely,
Steve. Pleasure speaking with
absolutely.
you.